do. A real old favourite, well, a lot of people, I think, when I started fly fishing, the go-to fly pattern, which sort of started me fly fishing, the biggest, best lure that seemed to get like loads of success was the woolly bugger. So it's a beast. This is a size 6. And we tied one of these at our branch, and a few people got a bit upset about tying a size 6, but never mind. But it's an awesome pattern. If you tie it with a cotton hackle, it pushes loads of water. I tie these with the Chevron genetic hen hackles, because then you've got so much movement. These are lovely long feathers, the genetic hens. So it doesn't push as much water, but it's all movement. It's a really big lure, but it's just literally all movement. An amazing fly. I think it was originally invented for like fishing the American streams and that. It's loaded with lead. It's lead all down the shank. It's an awesome fly, but it is a huge beast. So years ago, I was sort of comp fishing, and I thought I'd just make it a lot smaller. So it's exactly the same pattern as what I just showed you, but it's on a size 10 wet fly hook. So it's an awesome pattern. You can tie it comp legal, and if you wanted to as well, unweighted, for reservoir comp fishing if you really wanted to. So it's just a lovely little lure, loads and loads of movement. So we'll do one of them if you like. So we'll get on the size 10. Do you want a comp legal one or a weighted one?
Go on, do comp legal.
Comp legal. So I'm going to go for a size 10 wet fly hook, and I want a nice hot head on it, nice bright hot head. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to tie the whole fly with the hot pink thread. So we'll get some thread on there. So if I was tying this weighted, I would now varnish the thread wraps, do a lead underbody, and then tie the tail in just at the back of the lead there. But as we're doing a comp legal one, an unweighted one, to bulk the body up, what I will do is I'll tie the marabou in almost the full length of the shank, so then it's going to be less dubbing, because we're going to dub the body. So it's going to add a little bit of body to the fly already. So, and again, we won't have any steps in it either. If we just tie the tail in, we're going to have a nasty step. So we'll get a clump of marabou out again, not as fat as that last lot we got out. So same drill as before, we'll cut off the gnarly stalk ends. And I'll remove a little bit of the waste just because I feel bad not doing that. So we're going to offer this up, so we've got to tie it in nearly the full length for the shank, so this is going to help. This means we'll have to use less dubbing. So I'll just tie it in, down to the bend. A bit of a tidy up if you like, just make sure everything's all neatly tied in. Flatten my thread out a bit, so it makes it easier for just tidying up, because it's more of a wider, flatter thread section. Do the tail to length now while we're at it, if we like. So if we're doing comp legal, then people who haven't sort of fished international competitions, international rules dictates that your hook length is only allowed to be so long, and the complete fly is only allowed to be so long. So you have a gauge, so the small part is for the hook, so the hook fits in the gauge, so that's comp legal. So we're a bit too long for the, so you'd basically get disqualified from the comp if you got caught fishing that, because it's beyond comp legal. So that's still a little bit, but
use it on a practice day, we'll be alright.
so there we go. Nice little tail. Looks engaged just-ish. So for a little bit of extra glitz, we'll just add a little bit of synthetic This is just a dark olive sort of synthetic fibre. I think it was called Blobtail or something. I don't even know if they still make it. So I want 2 strands each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the material in half. And then I'm just going to sneak it in underneath our thread. So it's a good way to introduce materials without trying to actually turn the thread over the material, is you put the material under the vise, either side, and then you can slip it in up under the thread, and that's the 2 done my side, straight away, bang, that's it, they're in. So I can just do a few thread wraps up and fold that one back round your side and down. So that's 2 strands of the synthetic either side of the. So I just trim them off, they're the same length as the hook, they're the same length as the tail, sorry. So there we go. And I'll just do like I've done before, where I'll do a few wraps underneath the tail. I think it just helps stop the tail getting tangled around if you do bad casts or whatever, and it all gets, the tail gets wrapped around the hook bend. And so I think just a few turns underneath the tail. It's not a foolproof thing, but I think it just helps stop it. So now with rib, we're going to use just a bit of mono for a rib. This is £5 mono. So I'll just get several inches of that. It's a really, really slippy material. You can literally just tie it in and pull it straight out, where it's so smooth and slidey. So what you can do is just nibble the end. Just put some dents in it with your teeth, and that then stops it sliding out, hopefully. So that's that tied in. So now we're going to dub our body. But before we do that, like we did with the Black and Peacock spider, now is a good opportunity to do the hackle. What we're going to have is a palmed hackle, and then we'll have another hackle at the front. So we've got quite a lot going on at the front here if we've got 2 hackles to tie in. So the good thing to do before we dub the body is to tie the palmer hackle in now. And then we haven't got to mess around when things start getting busy and tight at the end. If we can get this out of the way, then it's going to make it a damn sight easier. So I'll try and find, let's see how big that one is. That should be alright, it's a bit big, but what have we got on here? One of the things you've got to watch with tying hackles in first is you've got to be damn sure you've got the right feather. Because if you start winding the feather and you think, it's too big or too small, you can't just take it out. You'd have to go under all the dubbing and start again, sort of thing. So you've got to make sure if you're tying the hackles in first, you've got the right feather from the word go. So this one is a bit long, but I'm not going to mess around rummaging for more. So I've stripped off all the waste off the butt end of the stalk, and we're going to tie that in so that the good convex side of the feather is against the hook shank. Ideally you want a bit of bare stem sticking out the end, so we're not just going straight on the bits of the fibres. It's creeping around, just do that again. And the beauty of this is we've got all of that area, we can literally tie tons of this stalk in, so it's never ever going to come out. It's bomb-proof. So there's our palmer in. That's going to be our palmer hackle, and then all we've got to do is add a little head hackle in at the end if we want to. This might be enough to do the whole thing, we'll see. So the body, this has been my favourite body for these woolly buggers for a long time. Is traditionally they used a chenille, but I like me seal's fur. Seal's fur is amazing. It looks brilliant when it's wet. So I'd go with a bit of sort of dark olive, and then with a little pinch of red in with it as well. It's just, you get some amazing effects just mixing dubbings. So the secret is, if you come up with a good one, remember how you made it, because when you want to go and make some more, it's good to write things down. I just started doing a thing on Saturday It's the thing where we're going to be fishing with some old-fashioned patterns. I've just tied a fly called a Jack Ketch for fishing at Diva. It's a bit like the sort of black and peacock spider, but it's big, and it's a multiple blend. It's got 4 different colours of seals fur in it, and it does look amazing when it's wet. So I'm just teasing these apart, fold it over, tease it apart, fold it over. Just keep doing that, and it's a nice blend. Get that spike on the top. Get a few turns. Tighten it up. Just create a nice double body all the way up. Way too much dubbing again. Peter Cockwood always tells a story about Peter Gaffercole. Apparently he was tying some wets or something on the live screen, and he had this dubbing and he put it on. He just went, and every time he did it, it worked out exactly the right amount, right up to the eye. Makes you sick. So now I've got our rib round there, so I'm just gonna manipulate my rib round to my side, so it's just in a handy place to continue. I'll get the hackle pliers on the tip of the hackle. One thing Charles always said to me is, before winding a hackle, it's like origami, paper folding. You've got to crease the stem, so I'm going to fold the hackle back to crease the stem, and then we can start winding. So I get a sort of turn at the head, and then nice open turns, working your way towards the back of the fly. And you imagine when this isn't, getting pulled through the water, it's all absolute movement everywhere. So I'm going to hold that up at the back, and then get on mono, and then wiggle that through. Try and keep the rib nice and tight. So this is going to be holding the whole shebang together. Put one more hackle in at the front. Tease the fibres back. Trim off the waist there. And what I like to do, if I'm doing a 2 hackle, what you'll normally find is, on the genetic hen cape here, I've always got the long hens in the middle there. You see where I've got a big hole there, that's where I've been tying loads of woolly buggers. But when you got the edges and the sides here, that's where you get the shorter, sort of webbier, really softer feathers. So they're ideal for doing like your head hackles. So let's try that one. And I want, as long as the hackle fibre is the same or slightly longer than that one, that should do it. Actually, it's all about picking the right feathers, isn't it? It's just getting it. But I do believe, if any fly is a chain of processes. So there's nothing worse than, you finish your process and just go straight on to the next one, and then you finish the fly and you look at it and you think, I wish I'd just done that. I wish I'd just done that bit better or something. So it's always worth each process. Just stop and have a look and just say, am I happy with that? Because if you're not happy, go back, because otherwise you'll probably never fish with a fly. It will never get used. It will just sit in the corner of your fly box, and you'll just always think, I wasn't happy with that. So now we've got our webby hen feather. So I'm going to lay the stalk got a fibre of thread keeps catching that fibre. I'm going to lay the stalk across the head. A few turns on that to tie it in. And this is the thing about tying hackles in. With this, we've literally only tied in, we've got it in by about 1 millimetre or 2. So if I start winding, obviously we're just going to pull it out. So one good way to stop this is to fold that stalk back and then tie it in again. So we've now doubled the stalk over and tied it in again, so it shouldn't in theory be able to pull out. So carefully get my scissor tips in there and cut that stem out. Now we should be able to wind a nice henny hackle at the front. So crease the stem like we did before, and then wind a nice. Only what, a turn or two. It's nice big soft webby fibres at the front. Let's just do another one. Tie that in, wiggle in through the fibres. This one has gone a bit mad. Same as what I did with the stalk, is you can then fold all the fibres back and the tip of the feather, create a nice hot head. Make sure you haven't got any fibres poking out, or try not to. And if you're feeling brave, you can get hold of the tip of the feather and just pull it out. Fibres of stray fibre, get out of the way. And then we finish it. This one is really busy. This has got mental hackles on here, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And there you go. So that is because a baby bugger. But what you got to watch is with hackles that long. I didn't realise it, but that could be, that's an illegal fly that way, and it does work like that as well. You can have, if you've got booby eyes, I've seen people with like really massive booby eyes on a booby. The hook gauge works that way as well. If it exceeds it that way, it's illegal as well. So, but it's a nice little, it's a lovely little lure. It's all movement. Should be a little bit sparser than that. We got a bit carried away, but never mind.
Well, probably be a hungry one.
Yeah. But, and incidentally, those big ones, nearly, I caught some of my biggest fish ever on them. They do work really well, but it's just a bit of a beast thing to cast.